there's a divide with audiences. Are audiences loving this? And, what are we going to see on second weekend? What kind of drop?
I mean, I don't know if the audiences are loving it. I just think that because there's nothing out right now, it was entertaining enough. I mean, there were, and I say that very loosely. I mean, it was entertaining as much as we expected this movie to be. So I think because of that, it kind of beat expectations, and maybe the audience is being more generous than they would normally be. Either that, or maybe I'm completely wrong, and this was a great movie, a fantastic movie, and I'm completely off.
Keep watching till you like it, Dante. Just to keep
seeing. Let's not forget Mufasa did very well after the first week and continues to do well.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't predict.
Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, though, when you look at audience scores, you got to get in the 90s for the audiences to really show how well the audiences are loving a movie. Anything below a 90% on the audience score, to be very honest with you, is still questionable. You got to look at the movie and see what's going on with it. A lot of very bad movies got good audience scores because people just said, it's just entertainment. It's something to watch. And they'll just go and watch it. They'll give it a 4 or 5 star and they'll move on. But when you see the ones that are beloved and the audiences are really rocking with it, it's always somewhere up in the, I think Super Mario Brothers was at 95, 96%. You got to look at stuff in the 90s. That's when the audience is all together loving the film. This is just, it still tells me that the audience really isn't feeling it as strongly, as maybe some other people might think.
Well, I did a show on this last night, and when I went and saw it Thursday night in a great presentation. The thing about this movie is it's the 4th Captain America movie. And you've got the Avengers, and you've got everything that we've seen before this. This movie deserved better treatment in terms of the creatives that were involved.
Yep.
And the writers were out of their league. The director had never done anything that what you needed for this movie more than anything to bring in creatives that were of the same caliber as early Marvel. You needed to get a director like Favreau or Kenneth Branagh or even a Joe Johnston, who never came back to the MCU, but he did Captain America: The First Avenger after doing The Rocketeer for Disney, which is much more beloved than it was when it came out. And that's what I don't understand is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has already it already has precedent for itself. This movie should have been treated like it was the introduction of a brand new character.
Mm-hmm.
And this film is not even about Sam Wilson.
Nope.
And it was much more why they decided to make this a long tail sequel to the Hulk is baffling to me. And this had more, the president, Thunderbolt Ross, had more going on personally. I want to see my daughter again. I'm dying. All this, I have to make amends for the past. It was all this stuff. And I'm like, why? You have 3 great characters. The new Falcon was great. You have the original, the middle Captain America. Carl Lumbly should have been the MVP of this movie. And he should have been participating. He should have donned a Captain America costume, and they should have fought together. And you had Anthony Mackie taking on the mantle of Captain America. And these 3 guys could have been like the 3 Musketeers and given you a mini Captain America's and Falcon team that were delving into a mystery. And when I watch this, I'm like, how could you have not looked at the precedent of the political thrillers that the Russo brothers and Marcus and McFeely, the writers of Winter Soldier, clearly did? It's like the people who wrote this movie never looked at. There's been political thrillers for the last 60 years that they could have drawn from to make this movie. And instead, they're trying to make a sequel to the Hulk, that everyone forgets is an MCU movie. And it was so frustrating to watch this because the pieces were there. And they had all this stuff that they could have made a great film. And I was saying last night on my show, the Jack Ryan movie, the 3rd Jack Ryan movie that stars Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan, Clear and Present Danger, should have been the template. They could have just ripped off that movie in terms of its structure, and it would have been a great film. And I think what was frustrating was they had all the pieces to make this a great movie. They did not have the talent to bring it together. and all the actors were let down, and the MCU was let down because of it.
Because
it's mildly entertaining, but
yes.
to me, it's like you go back and you look at the guys who wrote this movie. Come on, they were out of their league. The director was out of his league. You needed to bring in a heavy hitter to make this movie work. You needed what Martin Campbell did twice for James Bond in GoldenEye and in Casino Royale. Hell, he would have been a perfect director for this. But then he's made Green Lantern, and people would say, like, puts him out of the running. But whatever. Well, it was very disappointing, this film. And I wanted
we
to like
talked
it.
about it yesterday, Rob. It's the writers of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Those are the guys that wrote this movie. And I think a couple of them had, some experience on television as well with Empire, things like that.
Yeah.
Someone wrote The Princess and the Frog. These are the writers that were working on
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet, yeah,
not
working on
Disney.
a political thriller. It's like, okay, you could have gotten. I think Marcus and McFeely wrote the first 3 Captain America movies.
And Endgame and Infinity War too,
as well as those 2. So you needed somebody that had a comic book knowledge. I think Dante had put a tweet out. It said the people that wrote this never picked up a comic book in their life, man. Never. They've never looked at a comic book until it was maybe time to write this movie. Then they opened up a comic book and finally said, "Oh, well, these who these characters are about," because Captain America, or Sam Wilson, I should say, he's not even his own character. He's got like the powers of everybody. He's got Ant-Man's things. He's got the vibranium shields on his wings. He's holding Cap's shield. He's not his own person. He's an amalgam of a bunch of different characters, and he doesn't feel authentic to who Sam Wilson should be. So it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work on any level.
He wasn't authentically chosen. I was on a 2-hour stream with Bo DeMeo last night, and basically everything we've thought of got confirmed. This is all just holdovers of horrible decisions made to appease the socio-political movements of BLM and woke and all that. Now we're stuck with the ramifications. We're stuck with people that were failing laterally and up, again, for DEI and things like that. And now we have to deal with it. Robert, we also talked about it yesterday. Instead of referencing genre, they reference themselves. They just reference past movies. This happens in Star Wars. They don't give a shit about black characters. They don't care about Sam. They skipped over Bucky for a reason. And Bo's biggest criticism of this one was that Sam has no story. It's a Captain America movie, and Captain America has no story in it. And that's because the higher ups, and he did name names, Feige and his little cabal, they don't care about this shit. They care about their own ends.
You guys were talking about better writers, better directors, all these things that this movie needed. You have to remember the movie that we got wasn't the movie that they started with, right? Yeah. That was never the movie they wanted to make. They didn't want to make a great Captain America story. They wanted to make a great, hey, this black person is taking over a white person's role story, right? Like that was the original, and that's why it went through 4 reshoots or however many reshoots it went through, because that was the movie they wanted. They never intended on making a good or even decent Captain America movie. That was never the plan.
Yeah.
It was
just
so
Sam
they could solidify a black man as Captain America so that all of America can see that, America is now represented by a black character, regardless to who the character was.
Yeah, I want to know, though, did Sam ultimately get his boat loan?
Well, he got some kind of loan because he had a nice pad, right? In the movie,
buy him
driving around in a Hummer. Yeah, he was.
There's a Captain America lair in this movie.
Yeah,
with outside a big Captain America insignia. Like if anyone wanted to come after him when he was, say, sleeping, you could go to the Captain America lair or their headquarters, the clubhouse. I'm like, what is this? And by the way, is Captain America working for the military the way Rhodey is still in the military, or
that's
what is he? Like, I don't understand.
They didn't establish any of that.
They never established any of that stuff, man. It's just
for the military, but he's not in any leadership way.
But it's such. These are things. All of these details. I talked about this at length about genre last night. Understanding the genre you're working in, and until you understand, like there's this great Japanese term. I'm not going to pronounce it right, called sekikai, and basically it means worldview. And all Japanese creators, whether they're working in manga or video games, they look at like Tolkien as an example. You have to create the world that your story is set in first. What are the rules of the world? And then once the worldview is established, you can have your characters interact in that world however you want, but the world itself is immutable, like Middle-earth. The world of Middle-earth is created, and now we have a whole series of creators that do not understand the very genres that they're working in. They don't get it. They don't understand, like the people with Rings of Power. Yeah, we want to tell a story about Galadriel, but we're not going to make her the way she was. We're going to make her more contemporary. Well, what you're doing is you're changing your worldview. And that's what's happening with Star Trek, with Doctor Who, with Star Wars, with Marvel. We have all these creators that want to come in and they want to change the worldview of everything. And like if you're talking like Badger was saying, you have the MCU, but you should make Sam Wilson's Captain America within that worldview. Don't change the worldview and make it contemporary to us. People will accept any color character you give them if the character is well written and given a lot to do. You could have put Sam Wilson in a position where through his character and the machinations of the plot, he earns the audience. Every character has to earn the audience's trust and the audience's adulation. If you're not setting up a story where a character gets the opportunity to do that, you've failed. And the thing is, they're relying on Sam Wilson being black to that's supposed to carry him through. No, you've got to make him a great character, because nobody ultimately cares about the color of a character if the character is great. Right. And we've seen that time and time again. You watch a show like The Expanse. The Expanse posited that in the future, a lot of human beings are going to be mixed race, and they cast it appropriately. And there was all different kinds of ethnicities in The Expanse: white guys, black guys, foreign people, women, and people love that show. Nobody thought, well, this is a very woke show. No, because all those characters earned the audience's trust and their adulation. And it's so frustrating to watch something like this. Marvel should know better. This is 35 movies in. They should be a well-oiled machine. They should be delivering banger after banger after banger. And they have let us down since Far From Home.
It's almost like Kevin Feige is a charlatan.
A couple quick things I'll say. The thing that bothered me most, because I think story-wise, even effects-wise, you can accept something not being up to par, but I don't know who Sam Wilson is. Right. And I show this X-Men issue 19 cover, 12 cents, with the Mimic, because as I was watching the movie, I'm thinking, this is like the Mimic. He's got Ant-Man's helmet. He's got Falcon's wings. He's got Wakanda Iron Man powered suit.
Vibranium.
He's got Cap's shield. And by the way, I have the Ant-Man popcorn bucket, which went down in value from after I bought it. But I just think about the Mimic, which is a ridiculous X-Men villain, but kind of cool, you know? And it reminded me of that. Like, I don't know who he is as a character. I know who Steve Rogers is. He is a kid from Brooklyn that would not give up, that could do this all day, that would jump on a grenade and sacrifice himself to save friends, right? Like I don't know. And by the way, I like Sam Wilson as a character. I like Anthony Mackie a lot as Falcon, but you're right, he needed to be established. We needed not necessarily an origin, but I want to know who he is, where he comes from, what matters to him, because a well-defined character, you know how they'll react in any situation.
Didn't you watch the TV show, Chris?
I have do your homework, Chris. Come on, do your homework.
Come on, man.
You know, one of the ways that you can kind of, flesh out a character is through the relationships that the character has. And we saw that with the original Steve Rogers, because Steve Rogers, his character is fleshed out not just in his relationship with Bucky throughout all three films, but also with his relationship with Peggy Carter. And we don't have any relationships that Sam is connected to. I guess there's something with, young Falcon, the little Falcon, but we really don't get enough of that. And so that's another major issue, is that I don't know who this character is, because he doesn't have any relationships that ground him and make me understand his character through the eyes of another character. Like, that's sometimes a shortcut cheat code to try to get me to understand these guys. I don't understand him. And he doesn't even have his own villain. I mean, these are other people's villains that he's fighting. He's not even fighting his own villains. So at some point in time, it's like, all right, I don't know who this character is, and I'm not invested in his journey. I don't care. He already actually went on the journey to become Captain America in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So at this point, it's just rehashing a very bad idea, in my opinion.
DA, I got to say, to that point that you just made, we know that Falcon got his wings in a certain division of the military where he was flying with those wings as part of his military training. How great would it have been to like open this movie where you go to some test range and we meet young Falcon, and Anthony Mackie had been training this guy before he became Captain America. They were friends. Maybe you find out that Anthony Mackie was training a whole cadre of the same soldiers to use the same wings that he was using. And they could have had a sequence where the two of them, had a race, or you saw these guys training, and this guy, the guy who is the new Falcon, is the best of the flyers and is going to supplant, like there was literally a passing of the torch to the new Falcon. So you establish that these two guys have this relationship the same way that Captain America met Sam Wilson in the beginning of Winter Soldier. Right. Give them that has nothing to do with the plot. You're a building character. You're showing, and you can tell us what branch does the military, how does Captain America fit in, and he's still training people, and you could have done all of these things. And the thing is, the template for this stuff is already there, but and see, they did none of that.
We're talking like the Falcon was, like the only problem with this movie, right? I mean, there were too many problems with this movie, man. And for me. Yeah.
I'm just using an example of how they could have opened it.
And I said this on my review that I did on my show. I am Captain America is my favorite superhero. He has always been my favorite superhero. I've been reading Cap comics since the 80s, man. And like I said, the fact that they brought in the Serpent Society is ridiculous to me, especially if you're just going to make them basic terrorists. Sidewinder completely just demolished his character like they did Crossbones. I should say that in Captain America, in Civil War, it's like this disrespect of these characters, but that's fine. I get it. It's a movie. You want to try to shoehorn some things in, whatever. I'm not even speaking as a Captain America fan. As a fan of just movies, the things they tried to shoehorn into this film are ridiculous. And we haven't even gotten into Sabra yet. We haven't gotten it. So the ridiculousness of this film, man, it's like, you know what it feels like? It feels like a patchwork movie.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Together, and nothing made sense.
Yeah. The fact that they threw, and somebody just threw up Giancarlo Esposito, the fact that he came in this movie and he just feels so stitched in, like he was never a part of anything original. There was never any plan to have this character in here at all. I think he only shows up on screen with Sam Wilson. He's never seen anywhere else. He's in 3 scenes and he's gone. And it's
those are the 3 scenes they reshot and added in specifically.
Yeah, that's and it's just like It doesn't naturally flow into the story at all. It's literally like, oh, wait, hold on, stop the movie. All right, Giancarlo Esposito, let's get his scene in here. All right, let's shoot that. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, we got it. All right, go back to the movie. And it's like, what was that? I don't understand how that happened. Like, you guys couldn't come up. But see, this is going back to what James Gunn has said about Marvel. They don't have a script. When they start shooting, they don't have a script. They're shooting off of ideas. They're shooting off of, random thoughts or whatever, but they don't have a clean script from beginning to end that tells a story. All they have are ideas and things that they want to piece together from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hey, let's get some Eternal stuff going. Let's get the Hulk villains in here, and let's try to make a story out of this. And there's no script. And now they're about to go and shoot Avengers Doomsday. They're going to start shooting that in a couple of months without a script. They've already said they don't have a script yet. So it's like we're going to be back at the same point. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is falling off the cliff because they don't think story first, character first. They're thinking everything but story and character. So to your point, Dante, Captain America and Sam Wilson aren't the only problems with this, but it's the biggest problem because it's Sam Wilson's movie. If Sam works, you can make the rest of this movie work because you have a character I care about. But if I don't care about the main character, like, why would I care about anything else in this movie? I'll follow a main character's journey to the end of time. I'm not going to follow this crap.
Hey, Epic Mike. Just want to say, Epic Mike joining late. Mike, your thoughts on Captain America: Brave New World? And
also, really quick, Mike, before you say something, I posted a link. I posted a link in the private chat, Chris, where you can show what Sidewinder looks like in the comic.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll share it.
Carlo Esposito character.
Yeah, he doesn't look anything like his comic book character.
Nothing like that.
Well,
no, but just to show you what they shoehorned into this film.
This is John with some makeup.
That is
Giancarlo Esposito.
Splitting image, I understand.
If you squint and turn your head sideways, you can kind of see Giancarlo Esposito.
I know, but am I supposed to be impressed by this?
No, but my point is to just throwing names out there, right? You know, it's just name only.
Yep.
Anyways, Mike, what did you think of the film? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is not the worst film that Marvel's ever done, but it certainly feels like the weakest film that Marvel's ever done. Because I was kind of shocked at how disjointed this movie felt.
Yeah.
It just feels like 3 or 4 movies all like Frankenstein together. It's funny because I was talking to somebody recently about this, and watching them try to go back and tie up loose ends that were left over from like the Incredible Hulk, stuff like that. Like 10 years ago would have worked. We would have been so happy to see them referencing things from other movies and making callbacks to films that were all connected. This feels like Marvel going, hey, remember all those things that we just like dropped the ball on? Well, guess what? We went back and like remembered a little bit of what we talked about. So like, how about we reference those things now? And so then you turn a character like the Leader into a knockoff version of Zemo, who does the exact same thing that Zemo does, but on a worse caliber. You have, non-powered Captain America fighting a Hulk toe to toe and like almost winning that fight. It's just a mess, man. I was legitimately shocked. In any movie that drops the ball and fumbles the ball with Giancarlo Esposito needs to be just removed from theaters. If you can't make Giancarlo Esposito work in a film, like, you have nothing going for you whatsoever. Like, the guy is charisma in a bag. He's a bankable character anywhere he's in, and they just completely and utterly fumble with this. Yeah, the movie's a mess. I was not a fan at all. So
let me throw one thing on top of all of this. The thing that got me, especially into the third act of the movie, was the dialogue. The dialogue was awful, especially the moment between Betty and Thunderbolt Ross at the prison. That whole thing was just a soap opera mess. And I remember, and the other thing about the dialogue is there's so much foreshadowing in this movie that when Sam and the Red Hulk are fighting, I knew right away that he would beat him through empathy. It's like my problem, and this is the thing I'm noticing, is that any film made after or before 2010, I think people think that it was written by old white guys. Male and Pale is stale. And so current writers believe that they are great and that they could buck the trends, discard all the classics, and tell stories in new and exciting ways. DEI part of it, and they don't, and they're unwilling. As Rob, you say, there's so much great political thrillers out there. All you have to do is watch a few, find out what you like about it, and then put that in your movie. But for some reason, this movie is just pure action, one action scene to the next, and that's what seems to be what these filmmakers think is enough to bring people to the theaters, and it's not enough.
Well, also,
movie should say something. Movie should speak to you.
It makes no sense. For instance, why isn't Wakanda an element in this movie?
Yeah.
You talk about the fact that Sam Wilson is now wearing Wakandan tech, presumably the best Wakandan tech they've ever made, considering those wings can deflect blows from the Hulk. They control vibranium, which has been suddenly there's a metal that's more powerful than vibranium. Well, their balance of power has been now threatened. Why is it that we're talking about a global crisis and you have India, France, and Japan?
Right.
And that's it?
Not China. Not China.
China doesn't exist. Not Russia, not Eastern Europe, none of Europe. And I'm looking at this going, shouldn't some envoy from Wakanda be a part of this film? And that would be something like, why isn't one of the door you had Ao from the Dora Milaje in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Why wouldn't she have a relationship with Sam? And why wouldn't, because what do they do? Go take our tech. I would think that if anything, Captain America might have ties to Wakanda, considering they gave him the tech, and would be conferring with them. Wouldn't that be the first? He'd be like, "Tell me about this adamantium. Like, what's going on with this? What do you guys know?" And it's so weird that it's called Brave New World, and the worldview. It could have been epic, and yet it's ridiculous. You have like 3 prime ministers, and we're pissing off Japan. It's so weird.
Well, what you're describing is a political thriller.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
And you know what? Like you said, Alan, I mean, all of these writers that are working on all our beloved stuff,
X-ray girl.
They do not know what they're writing. They don't know the genre tropes of political thrillers in the first place.
And they don't know these characters.
No.
You're telling me we have the leader, right? And his big plan was just to turn Harrison Ford into the Red Hulk, not to control the Red Hulk himself, because that's what a super villain would do, right?
Yeah.
No, just to turn him into it and set him loose. That was
somehow
that was his big grand plan
to make him look bad, so that he would look bad to his daughter. Like,
I don't know if it was mentioned
about y'all.
I don't know if this was mentioned, but this movie had 5 different writers on it.
Yeah.
And it's 6, and it shows